Hey friends, did you know that fasting brings angels into your battle for healing and health? Well, we're going to come right back and we're going to look at this principle in the Bible. All right, here we are, Tim Mann, Church Builders International, bringing you this week's lesson in Virtual Healing School. This is part 3 of a series that I have been doing entitled Prayer and Fasting for a Speedy Healing. Prayer and Fasting for a Speedy Healing. But today we're going to get into angels and how they begin to be activated in your life when you add fasting to your prayer time. Now listen to me, this is an offer for you, a free offer. You don't have to do anything but throw me an email with about 2 or 3 words in it, okay? I got my email down here at the bottom. Email me and I will send you these 3 video lessons and my personal study notes on this subject, 17 pages of notes for free. No strings attached. I'm not asking you for anything. I just want to get things into your hand. If I already had your email, I'd throw it to you. But I don't have that, all right? And so if you'll do that, I will therefore send you all this material for free, asking nothing. Not going to badger you for offerings every other day, nothing like that, all right? I'm in this to help you get healed. Sure, there's expensive. Somebody wanted the help, we'd receive our money. But more importantly, I want to see you healed. And so please send me the email down here at my email address and simply, if you would, put your first name in and simply say, send me the angel outlines. Angel outlines. That's all you have to put on there. And I will send these notes and these 3 video links so you can watch these over and over again, have your own study notes. You can even share them with your family and friends and I won't get mad. Okay? And so, all right, let's get into our lesson today. We are talking about how angels help bring healing and health. They get into the battle with you for your healing and health. By adding fasting to your prayers, you have just now opened the portal of heaven for angels to begin to be activated on your behalf. Now let's go to the text we've been using for these 3 lessons, and then we're going to go off today on just the subject of angels and healing and deliverance. Our text that we've been reading is Isaiah chapter 58, starting at verse 6 through verse 9. Isaiah 58, 6 through 9. And here the prophet tells us, "Is not this the fast that I have chosen?" We've been going on this. Do you realize God has a chosen fast for a chosen purpose? And he goes on and says, here's the purpose of this fast: to loose the bands of wickedness, to undo the heavy burdens, to let the oppressed go free, and that you break every yoke. Then he adds this beautiful statement: then your light shall spring forth as the morning, and your health shall spring forth speedily. This is a product of adding fasting to your prayers. Now I know people say, well, I can't fast. Oh, everybody can fast in an acceptable way. All right. And I'll go over at the end again a little bit about how you can fast right now without it affecting your health. You can begin a fast starting first thing in the morning. You can fast. All right. I want to just start though with some examples. I want to show you angels being activated when people added fasting to their prayers. The first one I'm going to talk about is in Daniel chapter 10, the Old Testament, Daniel chapter 10. And according to the story, if you get in there and read Daniel 10, you'll find that Daniel was inquiring of the Lord when the prophecies of Jeremiah and Isaiah concerning the coming of Messiah would be fulfilled. So Daniel fasted and prayed for 21 days, all right? Now, when Daniel fasted, he would do the Day of Atonement fast, which is a 1-day fast without eating and then eat after dark. But Daniel went on lengthy fasts, a couple of them in his book. And what he did is he fasted pleasant bread. He would cut out certain things. I encourage you, get online, just research Daniel fast. Man, there's tons of it. It's one of the most favorite kinds of fasting that people do today if they're going to fast for an extended period of time. 3 days, 7 days, 14 days. Daniel fasted for 21 days. Now, he fasted and prayed for 21 days. He didn't just fast, he fasted and prayed. And we've already talked about how adding fasting to your prayers is how this works. It turbocharges your prayers. Fasting only without praying doesn't do a whole lot other than maybe helps you lose some weight, okay? But Daniel prayed and fasted for 21 days, and then the angel Gabriel, we're not talking about some low-level angel, we're talking about one of the archangels, Gabriel, was sent with the answer to his prayer. And Gabriel said, the very first day that you set your heart in prayer to receive, he said, I was sent with the answer. But a spirit, a demon spirit, a high-ranking, probably fallen angel spirit named the Prince of the Kingdom of Persia, he said, withstood me for 21 days. And then Michael and his troop of warrior angels came, and they fought with him until Gabriel could be released. The battle wasn't over yet, because after he gave his message to Daniel, he went back to battle. But that battle was tremendously won. We're not going to get into the history of all the things that happened for the nation of Israel because of that battle. But then he got his answer. Gabriel gave him in a vision the answer that he had petitioned to God for. Listen, angels and healing and deliverance from temporal circumstances that are negative are all through the Bible. Just in the New Testament alone, there's almost 200 verses talking about angels and what they do. 200. I'm not sure you could right now give me one verse, but let alone 200, because we don't study them in the right context. They're not little fat babies with bow and arrows. That's paganism. All right, those are cherub. They call them cherubs, but they're just. I mean, come on. Would God send an angel, a big angel with a bow to shoot you? No, that's not how it works. All right, here's another story of angels and deliverance and assistance. Jesus in Luke 4 is up on the mountain of temptation. And there he wrestles the devil himself for 40 days, 40 nights. They get into doctrinal arguments and so forth. And the devil is trying to get Jesus to submit to him and promises him all the kingdoms of the world and from that day on. But then after the 40 days, it says, then the devil leaveth him. And this is in Matthew 4:11. The devil leaves him, and behold, angels came and ministered to him. They were already on the scene, but then once the devil is gone, the demon influence is gone, then Jesus begins to see them. That's probably why Satan left them, okay? Let's look at another case of Jesus in his prayer and fasting. Jesus is in the garden in Luke's Gospel 22. And he's in the garden the night before his crucifixion. And that's where he's sweating great drops of blood. And the disciples they went to sleep on him, a handful of them. And he said, couldn't you watch with me 1 hour? That verse kind of indicates God expects an hour's worth of prayer a day from you. You can break that hour up if you want into 2 or 3 or 4 segments, but watch with the Lord. Let him talk to you. That 1 hour is a special time for prayer. Well, in Luke 22, verse 43, after Jesus finished his prayer and that burden began to lift, it says, and an angel had appeared from him from heaven, strengthening him. And so if you ever get weary in spiritual battles and fights and even battles with your health, add some fasting to your prayers and you'll find the angels will be triggered by that addition of fasting. Here, let's look at another, all right? This one is about Peter. This is in the book of Acts in chapter 12, several verses here. But Peter is put into prison by the high priest and the Sanhedrin, and they're going to put him to death the next day. And then he even went to Herod. Well, an angel appeared to Peter when he was asleep in the prison. He delivered him from the prison after the church spent the night in prayer and fasting for him. Isn't that amazing? After the church spent one day in prayer and fasting, Peter gets let free. Man, and then the soldiers come, well, where'd he go? He was delivered by an angel. The story is all in Acts chapter 12. Paul and his team, they were out on the sea. In Acts chapter 27, Paul was on his way to Rome. He technically was a prisoner, but they were giving him preference, the guards and things were. And then a big storm came up. It was called a Euroclydon. We'd say it was a Mediterranean hurricane. And so after a long absence, 27:21 in the book of Acts, I'm going to read a few verses. But after a long abstinence, Paul stood forth fasting. He stood forth in the midst of them, said, Sirs, you should have hearkened unto me and not loosed from Crete, and have gained this harm and loss. But now I exhort you to be of good cheer. For there shall be no loss of any man's life among you, but of the ship. For there stood by me this night the angel of God, whose I am and whom I serve, saying, Fear not, Paul, you must be brought before Caesar, and lo, God has given you and all them that sail with you. Wherefore, sirs, Paul said, be of good cheer, for I believe God, that it shall be even as it was told unto me. Now, why was the angel there talking to him? Well, he said after a long abstinence or fast. Now, we can skip down to verse 33 here in Acts 27, and 33 through 35, and it says, And while the day was coming, Paul besought them all to take meat. Now, there's other prisoners on there. There's probably 15 to 20 Roman guards on there, but Paul was on there with some of his team. Luke was on there. Titus was on there. Maybe even Timothy was on there. And it says, Paul besought them all to take food, saying, This day is the 14th day that you have tarried and continued fasting, having taken nothing. Wherefore, I pray you, take some meat, for this is for your health. All right? They were fasting in part. He said, this is for your health. For, he said, there shall not a hair fall from the head of any of you. And when he had thus spoken, he took bread, he gave thanks to God in the presence of them all. And when he had broken it, he began to eat. He took bread in his hands. He looks up and gives thanks to God, and he breaks the bread and begins to distribute. What was Paul doing? He was ending their 14-day fast with communion. He brought them right into the sacraments, all right? And they're giving thanks and praising him. We're free. Praise God. We're all going to live. And it was still perilous. Nothing had changed circumstantially, but now they are moving forward in faith. Did you know that angels and healing go together in the Bible? According to the Bible, we taught on this the last two lessons, especially lesson number 2. Some sicknesses are the products of evil spirits, or what Jesus called in Luke 13, spirits of sickness. These are a kind of demon, and their mission when they attack you is to bring physical sickness against your body. Am I possessed if I get sick? Oh no, don't listen to people like that spout that foolishness. That's not scriptural. No, you're not possessed, but you are being attacked, all right? So these evil spirits or spirits of sickness that attack our bodies need to be dealt with. You just can't pray to be healed. You got to deal with the demons, and God put the right to start that process into our hands. We use the authority that we've been given, and we begin to command them. Just because you don't see the demons that are attacking your body does not mean that they are not there. Read the Gospels. Over half of the healings, 49 stories or events of healings in the 4 Gospels, that's not counting all the general verses of healings, over half of those 49 stories Jesus performed in the Gospels of healings, he had to deal in half or more of these with one of these kinds of spirits. He called them spirits of sickness. He called them this kind, all right? So we have a kind, we've already talked about this, there is a kind of sickness and a kind of demon that brings this kind of sickness. In other words, certain demons, spirits of sickness, that's what their assignments are, they bring a more evil kind of sickness against you and I. evil sicknesses, sicknesses that are of that kind, sicknesses that flow from evil. Well, you don't know unless God reveals it to you. You don't know whether it's a general sickness or whether it's one of those evil sicknesses that has come against you because a spirit of sickness is attacking your body. You know, at the time of this teaching, we're in the spring of the year. I live in northern Michigan. Finally, the snow is gone. Finally, the grass is starting to turn green. Finally, the trees are just starting to bud. I mean, I saw some daffodils today, you know, and things are beginning. But you know also what that means? That means the air is going to begin to be filled with pollen. And many people are sensitive to that pollen. And what happens? They begin to sneeze and they get runny eyes and things like that. And they're blowing their nose. Does that mean they have a spirit of sickness? Well, not normally. You know, you can just blow your nose. You can get some better rest or something. There's lots of grandma recipes for things that you can take that will ease that. There's, you know, prescription, non-prescription drugs that you can take, antihistamines, and it just kind of fades. But, you know, after a few days, it just fades away anyway. Our body has an immune system that fights back against those things. Well, there's a good chance that's not a spirit of sickness, and it would be classified in the Bible as part of the curse. The sicknesses that flow from the curse that came on the world when Adam gave the world, the dominion of the world, away to Satan in the Garden of Eden. But we find, though, that there are sicknesses that are caused by these demon spirits, spirits of sickness. Jesus identified this kind of demon and this kind of sickness that they brought as this kind in Matthew chapter 17. Some demons bring sickness against people, this kind of demon, different than other demons who attack in different ways. Sicknesses that they bring are also called this kind of sickness. So we got certain sicknesses that medical science can't seem to deal with. They try, God bless them, we're thankful for whatever they can do, but they don't have a lot of success in certain types of disease. Why? Because these are spirits of sickness. The root of the sickness is a spirit. Well, you can't see a demon on x-rays. It just doesn't come through. They're not a physical being that they can be looked at. But when they're dealt with the right way, when we, by prayer and fasting, we begin to speak God's promises about healing, coupling fasting with our prayers, and even saying to the Lord, all right, I just command this sickness and the spirit behind it to leave. Remember those two phrases. I command this sickness and the spirit that is behind it to leave my body now in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ. These spirits are called evil spirit, evil. The Greek word evil is the word kakos, and it means evil, specifically an evil sickness. Many times in the New Testament, kakos is just translated evil. It's not translated as an evil sickness, but it means an evil sickness, a sickness that proceeds from and flows through or from evil. Evil spirits are the authors of these kinds of sicknesses. So we've got evil spirits and we've got evil sicknesses. And these sicknesses flow from the evil source of these wicked spirits. Now let's look at something else here, all right? Let's look at John chapter 4. I want to begin to expound on this one a little bit, all right? This is in John 4. This is in the early part of Jesus' ministry, and he goes to the pool of Bethesda. Bethesda means house of God. So it's a stone pool with stone all around it, patios, and then there's porches, they call it, porticos, 3 of them stacked up there. And it's not far from the back door of the temple, okay? So the priests would bring the lambs that they would be sacrificing on the altar to this pool. And they would ceremonially wash those sheep in this pool. There was evidently an underground spring that began to feed that pool. And so it was the tradition that this was a water or a bath of cleansing for that, all right? It is actually where the Catholics' tradition of holy water comes from, is this story in John chapter 5. And it says here in verse 4, "For an angel went down at a certain season into the pool and troubled or agitated the water. And whoever then first, after the agitating of the water, stepped in, was made whole of whatever disease they had." Now, this was God's mercy. All right, the people still had faith when that water started to bubble and boil. Man, they were like high dive divers. They were jumping into that pool, and the first one in would get healed. Now, this was a very common tradition. The Jewish historian Josephus, he wrote about this. The Jewish historian Philo, he wrote about this, and it seemed to happen when it happened on a Sabbath day. And so it happened at periodic times, not according to the calendar, but maybe every couple of weeks, maybe once a month. But it happened on a regular basis, so sick people would begin to gather there. Now, the Jewish Sabbath started at dark on Friday and went through dark on Saturday. So by Thursday afternoon, people were gathering. They wanted to get right up next to the pool. They wanted to be close. And so by the time the Sabbath would come, there'd be 4,000 to 5,000 people, according to Josephus, gathered around this pool and on the porticos, which were close. I guess they could have dove off of them or something like that, waiting for that angel who brought healing to agitate the water. Wait a minute, you mean angels are involved with healing people? Absolutely. We can do all kinds of verses and show how that people were healed after they especially added fasting to their prayers. And so the angels and healing are connected together. Angels and deliverance from temporal circumstances are connected together. Angels and financial woes are connected together. I mean, these angels are everywhere, and it seems like so many. We got all of these stories in the New Testament and in the Old Testament where that when people coupled fasting with their prayers, that's when these angels were mobilized on their behalf. Not trying to invent some weird doctrine here, but listen, when you find dozens of these kinds of stories, somebody's praying and then they start fasting, and then a day, 2 days, 3 days, 5 days, 14 days, 21 days later, angels start showing up and they're in ministry to the people who are fasting. We can't ignore that. Not just the things Jesus said, the red letters are doctrine in the Bible. These stories themselves and the events and the details of those stories are doctrine, Paul told Timothy. This is doctrine. We ought to be governing our lives according to these things. So this angel in John 4 went down at a certain season, and the word certain means specific. There were specific times that it went down into the pool, and it appears historically it was always on a Sabbath, and the troubled, agitated, stirred up the water, started bubbling. Whoever then first, after the troubling of the water, stepped in was made whole of whatever disease he had. So he's bringing healing. He's bringing the power of healing with him, and we don't know if that angel was still in that water. We don't know. And so when that water began to boil and bubble, not boil by heat, but just bubble up, being agitated, there was healing power that was doing that. And the people began to realize that, and they just dive in there, and the first one to hit that water, they would be instantly healed. Now listen, Jesus in the scriptures, he identified the demons and the sicknesses that brought this kinds of sicknesses. These are still this kind today. There are still sicknesses that medical science has no cure for. There is heart disease. Heart disease is the #1 killer in the United States. I don't know if you knew that. The second killer in the United States is diabetes. Okay, that's why our medical science puts so much effort into it. But did you know they really just can't cure it? I mean, they've gotten pretty good at cutting out a heart and putting in another, or cutting out half a heart and sewing in another half. I mean, they've gotten pretty good at those things, but even that, now you got to be on lifelong medications. You got to be careful. You can't exert yourself. I mean, I've not read a story where somebody had a heart transplant and was out running marathons in 3 months. It just doesn't happen. The thing is still there. That sickness is still there. Same way with diabetes. Right now, they have no cure for diabetes. They think they know why it happens, but they can't undo it. Why? These two things are spirits of sickness, my friend. These are evil spirits that bring evil disease. What classifies these as evil diseases? It kills people. It maims people, these diseases. It turns them into invalids, all right? It completely captures and controls their life. God said that is evil. You and I don't want to be part of that evil kind of disease. So these demons bring sickness against people, and then these demons that bring these kinds of sicknesses, Jesus called them spirits of sickness, and he also called them this kind. The sicknesses that they bring are also called this kind. There's a special category of sickness and a special category of demons that bring this special kind of sickness. And all of these are called in the Bible, in the New Testament, evil sicknesses. Kakos, sicknesses that flow from and through evil. Now the angels war against all demons if you'll invite them, but especially this kind. Now let's talk for a moment about angels and their warfare. I don't think we understand that these angels, a part of the angels, at least 1/3, are created to wage war against demonic forces and demonic force construed circumstances against God's people. Now I want to read this verses to close here today. This is Revelation chapter 12, verse 10. It says, "And there was war in heaven, and Michael and his angels fought against the dragon," that's Satan, "and the dragon fought with Michael and his angels, and they prevailed not. Neither was their place found any more in heaven. And a great dragon was cast out, the old serpent that is called the devil and Satan, which deceives the whole world. And he went into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him." So Satan has this group of fallen angels that follow him. Michael, the head archangel, and his warrior host, the troop of angels that he commands, are warrior. We're probably talking millions upon millions of these warring angels. And there was war in heaven, maybe before our time, maybe before even Jesus's time. And there was a battle that took place. And it says that the dragon was cast out, Satan and his angels, and it says, and they were not strong enough. Michael and his angels are much stronger than these other fallen angels. They've lost all the might they once had. Satan doesn't have that might. And then it says that they were cast down to the earth. Cast down, that word is ekbalo. There's no down or out in that word. It means to be expelled. They were expelled from heaven, and it also means to be smashed. They were smashed to the earth. These angels, the good angels, they like beating on the fallen angels and these demon spirits, all right? They are there to wage war for you and I. And it says, and let me read this last statement, okay? "And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceives the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. And I heard a loud voice saying, now is come salvation, healing, deliverance, wholeness, and strength." This word salvation here, sozo, it directly, 1/3 of the times it's used in the New Testament is actually specifically talking about healing, like in Mark 5 with Jairus' daughter that Jesus raised from the dead, all right? And it talks, he said, come and heal my daughter. That word heal is the same word. And it says, now has come salvation, healing, and strength, and the kingdom of our God, and the power of his Christ, for the accuser of our brethren has been smashed down, which accuse them before God day and night. Listen, angels are immediately on the scene when you start adding fasting to your prayers. It's like your prayers now get turbocharged. These other beings are there, and they've come to smash the enemy and the fruit of the enemy. Hey, I'm all out of time for today. I hope you got something. My email's been down here. Send me that email. Just ask for the fasting videos, and I will send them off. Hey, add a prayer request in there. My wife and I will lift you up in prayer, and we will work with you to get you set free of all sickness and disease. God bless you. We'll see you next week.